Norah Candido. Yeah, me too. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, so my name is Nora Candido. I am a registered dietitian, and I have done a lot of research on this based on my own personal experience, things that I was navigating in my own hormonal journey, but also from my schooling and my background in nutrition education. So I love speaking about this topic. I think everybody deserves to have access to this information, and I'm so happy to chat all things birth control. Yeah, yeah. So my my story is long and that's not for today. But when I first got my cycle, it was beautiful. We talked about this on the first episode. Super light in the beginning. I used what they called it, like a slender tampon. I don't even know because I haven't seen them since my first cycle 14 years ago. And then the next three came very quickly with no consistency. They were super heavy. I ended up missing 18 days of my freshman year of high school. And I went to my doctor and they were like, here, take this magical pill. It will help. And you know what? It did. And that's why, we can talk about why it works, how it works, why it makes people's PMS or all of their symptoms go away. But for me, it was such a Band-Aid solution. Like, it didn't address why that was even happening in the first place. Or if my doctor had been like, oh, this can be normal. Like, these are your first few cycles. It's going to take time for your body to figure it out. Here are some nutrition and lifestyle tips that you could be doing while you're getting your cycle more frequently, focusing on nutrient-dense foods, etc., and ways to just support my body better so it could figure it out on its own. I wasn't broken. Nothing was wrong with me inherently. But this pill that I ended up taking for 10 years masked all of those issues. And then they came rushing back as soon as I came off the pill. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're probably proof of that. It works. It's easy. It takes over. And the work that I do in my private practice and my passion is treating the underlying issues. But doctors don't have that capacity. When you're seeing 20, 30 people in a day, you don't have time to sit down for an hour and be like, here's how you care for your body at different phases of your cycle. And here's it's hard work, honestly. I don't think they have the capacity. Not at all. Yep. Yes, that is 100% correct. And I hope that programs are changing in the future to understand, especially coming from more of a preventative medicine lens. There are so many more things that we can be doing. But, there is a time and place for birth control. I'm not here to just demonize it. It's done a lot for women's rights, and it's a really important tool that we have, but it should not be abused. And there are certain situations, and I think letting people have the informed choice, giving people the decision here's some of the side effects. You are at a significant increased risk for blood clots when you take birth control. Like, I did not know any of these things, and I don't blame my mom. I don't blame my doctor. I don't blame myself just because I was 14 and I trusted my doctor, right? Like, they're the one that has the authority in this situation, and it's like, okay, this is what you recommend. I'm going to do what you say. Yeah. I don't think we have enough information to make that direct cause and effect correlation, but I do think there's a big connection, and I see this in my practice now. And I think it's really invalidating. It dismisses people when they are coming off the pill and then their cycle doesn't return, or they're struggling and there are a lot of imbalances that are occurring while your body's trying to figure things out. And if your game plan in your mind, you're like, okay, I'm going to come off the pill today and I want to get pregnant tomorrow, it doesn't work like that. But fertility clinics still use birth control when they're doing fertility treatments for people to simulate, okay, we get the bleed on this day, so you should ovulate on this day. Like, they are still using it as a tool in their practice. So I don't think we can make that connection to say it absolutely causes infertility. But again, in my experience, and the longer that we're on it, the longer that we're shutting our brain off and it's not regulating our hormones from the inside out, we're relying on outside sources, those exogenous hormones to control our cycle. That, I think, the longer we're on it, the harder it is to turn off. The harder it is for our brain to turn back on and regulate this process on its own again. Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, there's so much to what you just said there too that I want to touch on. But so again, it is this outside, and we're speaking specifically to oral contraceptives. So this is a blend of both estrogen and progesterone that we're taking in a pill form. So it's exogenous. Those hormones are coming from an outside source. And what it's doing is basically blocking the communication from our brain to our ovaries. Our ovaries are where majority of these hormones are made, specifically estrogen, and it shuts that communication pathway off. Because you're getting them from the outside source, your brain is able to kind of turn that pathway off. So in doing that, it's basically simulating menopause in our body, because we're not ovulating. When our levels are just consistent across the board, there's no monthly fluctuations. That's why you might feel similar every single day. And that's a lot of what I hear when people transition off the pill, is noticing different energy fluctuations throughout the month, their mood changing in different phases of their cycle, etc. Where on the pill, you might just feel pretty flat. I know a lot of people that when they started birth control, they started having a lot of mental health issues too. They did not feel like themselves, and they felt really low or flat, no energy, feeling more depressed or more anxious. And when you're playing with hormones, those are very common symptoms that we can experience because your body just doesn't know what to do with, maybe it's the amount, maybe it's the type or the form of those hormones coming in. The last thing big myth here is even when we get a period, quote, I'm putting this in air quotes, when we're on the pill, it's not a true period. So because we don't have those fluctuations, the lining in our uterus, the endometrium, is never fully building up. So we don't have anything to shed. There's nothing for us to lose when we have a quote period. It's technically called a withdrawal bleed. So when you take that week of sugar pills or placebo pills or iron, whatever you call them, iron pills, that cutoff or the removal of the hormones, they don't contain the estrogen or the progesterone, is what simulates or tricks your body into thinking, okay, I'm about to have a period. But there's nothing, like, that's unnecessary when you're on the pill. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, exactly. And that's why there's a huge difference too in what you think your period blood might look like on your pill, which it's likely thinner, it might be lighter in color. It's because there's no like old blood hanging around from the previous cycle that's oxidizing. There's no thickening of that wall, so the consistency of the blood itself is a lot thinner. When we do come off the pill, and some individuals might experience thicker blood, they're like, oh my gosh, what is this? what is this? Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Exactly. 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 Yeah. Mm-hmm. And that's why you can't get pregnant. That's how it works. Yeah. The first things that I hear from individuals that I work with when they come off the pill is they feel clarity. They feel more like themselves. They have more energy. They have more libido, sex drive. Like those things are quality of life. We're not meant to feel the same every single day. Those energy fluctuations, those changes in our libido, everything is designed for a reason. So that alone is obviously a huge benefit, but when we think about more of the side effects or the potential hazards of being on birth control, its relationship to gut issues especially, or if you are experiencing any of those mental health changes, the blood clot risk is higher. Those to me are the motivation to also come off the pill. It doesn't mean you have to get pregnant or you will get pregnant. And I think whoever puts you on the pill should be the one telling you how to come off the pill. And we're never really given like this exit ramp. Like there are things that I recommend we do for 3 months before we even think about coming off the pill, just to make that transition smoother, because that was not my experience. I feel like I got punched in the face when I came off of the pill with my symptoms coming back. And now, again, that's my whole hope in helping people through this transition, is to prevent all of those things from happening. Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So, the way that our body even processes birth control, like many other medications, is through our liver. So, we really want to focus a lot on supporting our liver with nutrients coming from food and supplements and lifestyle behavior things as well. So, just going to kind of rattle off a lot of those things because the pill naturally depletes a lot of our B vitamins, and that's through the way that it's metabolized. If you're curious why it does that, so it's using a lot of those B vitamins, zinc, selenium, magnesium, vitamin C, and vitamin E. So the number one thing that I talk to people about before they come off the pill is starting a really good quality multivitamin. And this is where Maria is perfect for this. Like, it's literally designed for that. The amount of magnesium in this elixir is what I think makes a key difference for a lot of people too in the transition, is supporting their mood and if they're experiencing any sort of anxiety as well. But all of those vitamins that are being depleted, we need to help restore and rebuild those stores of those vitamins, because those are the essential building blocks needed for our body to even make the new hormones coming in. So if we never take time to replete and then we come off the pill, our body's like, well, I'm SOL. Like, I don't have the necessary building blocks to even start this process. Yes. Yes. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So yeah, when I think about like liver support as a whole, I think about the things that tax our liver. So unfortunately, that is alcohol, it's sugar, it's caffeine. All of those are depleting our B vitamins, especially when they are being metabolized or broken down in the body. So limiting those things, especially while your body is going through this dramatic transition, is essential. For me, it's pretty non-negotiable. Other foods specifically that we can be adding in to support our liver are foods that naturally contain sulfur. So there's a whole process in the liver, sulfonation. It helps to break down, that's the main process. And this is our body's natural detoxifying organ. Like, all of our blood runs through here. This is where all the hormones are regulated. So it's essential that we are supporting this. So those high sulfur rich foods are arugula, anything bitter. Dandelion greens. Microgreens have the highest concentrations of sulfur. All the brassicaceae vegetables like broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, the ones that make you toot, that's for a reason. It's the sulfur in there, right? Eggs themselves contain sulfur, and even some dairy products, nuts and seeds as well. So I recommend my clients to have 2 servings of those daily, regardless of where you are. Like, our liver does such important things for us, we need to be supporting it. And 2 servings looks like 1 cup uncooked, half cup cooked. Any of those things. Or the microgreens, they can just be eaten raw. You can do about a half a cup as well. Yeah. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So the liver is like the first stop for hormones, but once the liver has packaged things up nicely, it sends them on their merry way. They're traveling through our GI tract, our digestive system. There's actually a specific portion of our microbiome, so that's like the whole ecosystem within our gut that has the both good bacteria and quote bad bacteria that they live harmoniously in there most of the time. But there's a portion of this called the estrobolome that directly manages how much estrogen our body holds on to and how much it gets rid of. So when there's any sort of imbalance in that bacteria in the microbiome, it's going to directly affect how much estrogen your body holds on to or gets rid of. I think that's a huge thing that we're not always addressing, and that's why I focus on the gut health side of things first. So while you're coming off the pill, while your body is transitioning, we need to make sure that that master regulator, our liver, and I call our estrobolome the second thermostat. For me, it's like the second place. And if we're not doing it in that order, it's not going to work. Things are going to go haywire. Yeah. Yeah, it's in the skin too. So don't peel them. You need it. The skin component is actually essential. Like, so baby carrots don't count, unfortunately. And also leave a little like soil on there. Those are good soil rich, beneficial bacteria. It's a natural place for us to get them. Yeah, that's a great way to stimulate our estrobolome, but also just motility in general. Lastly is like the third stop is going to the bathroom. So if you're not going to the bathroom well, I mean like a good bowel movement, complete, feels satisfying every day, that's where we need to start. Because if your body has said, okay, we have enough hormones, we're going to get rid of the rest, and then it's just sitting in your body, in your colon, and not going anywhere, those things get recycled right back into your system. I see this all the time, and I can see it in the type of estrogen that gets recycled, but that's what's causing the PMS symptoms, the breast tenderness, the acne, the cyclical migraines, the cramping, the heavy clots. All of that is because your body is just not able to get rid of that estrogen effectively. Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep. Exactly. Other things too. Like, I mean, it's all cholesterols, hormones, other things. So it's essential. And so yeah, some other things you just brought up in terms of excretion that are helpful in supporting our liver as a whole is sweating. Sweating at least 3 times a week, whether that's in a sauna or even in a hot bath. I choose those two forms even over intense exercise because as your body is going through this transition, we really want to mitigate and lower stress. So yes, stress can come from exercise too, but we need to support and sweat to get some of those things out. So that's why I prefer like infrared sauna or regular sauna or a hot bath. Something that hopefully most people have access to is a hot bath. Mm-hmm. Exactly. My kind of broad recommendation is limiting workouts to about 30 minutes or less, honestly, when we're healing hormones, and choosing more restorative movements, more yoga, more Pilates, more walking, stretching than the high intensity boot camps and HIIT classes and things. And it's temporary. This is not your forever, but knowing that it might help to prevent some of those issues down the road and stressing out your thyroid, and that causes a whole nother downwind effect on your hormones. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, as we talked of how birth control works in the first place, of shutting off that communication pathway. So it's called the HPA axis. It's our hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenals. That axis also goes to our ovaries, the HPO axis. So when we're coming off the pill, we want to do everything in our power to support that communication pathway, which is also our nervous system. It's through the vagus nerve. So I talk a lot about nervous system support and vagus nerve exercises, and these are fun. These are really fun. Do you know any of these? Oh my gosh. Okay, cool. I love that I'm inciting this info for you. Yeah, so the vagus nerve, it is bidirectional, meaning it sends signals from our brain to the rest of our body, but it also is receiving those messages from other parts in our body and sending them back up to our brain. So, briefly, when we talk about like the mind-gut connection, if there's anything off in your gut, it's also sending signals back up to your brain saying things are really off and you might feel unwell, like depression, for example. So ways that we support this pathway as a whole, it is a nerve. It runs parallel to our spinal cord. So anything using our throat and having any sort of vibration is what can stimulate the vagus nerve. So things like humming, that vibration right behind your throat box, is going to stimulate the vagus nerve. Gargling, anything, water, whatever liquids, for like 2 minutes a session. Chanting, like when we think about, especially in a yoga class, you might chant the word Om. There's legit reason for that. It's the vibration that helps to stimulate that pathway. Yodeling. So I don't know many yodelers. I don't know about you. Maybe they do more so in the countryside, but still that vibration pattern. But also things like meditation, deep belly breathing, all of those things are very, very calming for our nervous system and help to just soothe things overall and really help to stimulate the vagus nerve. It would definitely work. Definitely work. Singing, chanting at your full moon circle. Yes. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, some other kind of things just supporting that HPO axis specifically. It needs vitamin C to function. So again, that can be found in Morea or eating naturally vitamin C rich foods, right? Citrus, even broccoli, peppers, all contain natural sources of vitamin C. Sleep is essential. This is something that we definitely need to be prioritizing when we're focusing on our hormonal health. And, that looks different for everybody, but somewhere between 7 to 9 hours is ideal. And that's, again, another non-negotiable for me. Even being intimate, having sex has been shown to be beneficial. So when we orgasm especially, there's a lot of those feel-good neurotransmitters and hormones that are released, and endorphins post-sex that we experience that are super helpful. They're very calming for our body. So if you needed a reason, if your partner needed a reason, there you go. Things that pathway also can benefit from is sodium. So this speaks more to our adrenals. They function off of sodium. So we need to be having enough salt in our diet. I love, especially if we're eating more whole foods and we're not getting sodium naturally, having one electrolyte beverage a day, I think, is an easy way for us to incorporate it, or sprinkling iodized salt onto your meals. It needs to be iodized to support our thyroid. I also like adaptogens. It's one that I like to lean on, but there are some contraindications for people. So this is very individualized. I wouldn't just go start taking one without talking to your provider. There are different types, different amounts. If you have an autoimmune issue, you might not be recommended to take certain ones. If you have blood pressure issues, etc. So this is it is more medicinal than anything else, but they can be really helpful, especially things like ashwagandha, supporting anxiety and helping your body make this transition a little bit easier. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I notice if people feel like no matter how much water they drink, they always feel thirsty or their urine comes out just clear, you might not be retaining or holding on to that water to even rehydrate your cells. You might need a little bit more of those electrolytes, sodium, potassium specifically, to help your body actually retain and use the water that you are providing it with. But that's another thing when we have some adrenal issues, you might notice craving more saltier foods or sweet foods. And that's specifically because your adrenal glands are using those electrolytes. So it's an easy way, kind of nice little blanket. And now, there's infinite options out there. I don't know. Do you incorporate electrolytes when you run? Yeah. 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 So yeah, no matter like activity level, and again, this is for individuals that are eating mostly whole foods, I recommend everybody salt their food with iodized salt and incorporate, depending, an electrolyte beverage every day. Yes, that is essential. Salt and selenium. The iodine from iodized salt supports our thyroid, and selenium. So even consuming 2 Brazil nuts a day is enough selenium to support your thyroid. There is also some selenium in Morea as well. Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. So I would be remiss not to talk about nutrition as I am a registered dietitian, and I think a really important thing to also reduce stress in our body while we're making this transition, while your body is trying to come off of the pill, is making sure we're just getting adequate nutrition in general. The composition, sure, it's something to focus on. We want to get enough fiber that helps us go to the bathroom. We want to get those complex carbohydrates for energy, enough protein, enough fat. Fat is the building block for a lot of our hormones. So I don't recommend fasting at all. If you are a menstruating person, it is a source of stress. And I always recommend people to start eating an hour within waking. as a way to also get their metabolism going, get their motility moving, and yeah, another way to just reduce stress overall in the body. Yeah, I mean, we definitely should do like a whole episode on maybe keto or paleo or low carb in general and its impacts on our menstrual cycle, but absolutely not recommended. We need carbohydrates. It's our brain's primary source of fuel. And I think something that can be helpful to think about when you are eating them, or if this is maybe a food that you've limited in the past, or you have a label on it for some reason, identifying like, where did that even come from? What is telling you to do that? If your body is craving carbohydrates, there's a reason. It's energy, it's fuel, and it's essential. And again, those are part of the building blocks to even make our hormones. So in order to have happy hormones, we need to be incorporating adequate amounts of carbohydrates. And that number is completely individualized. I'm never going to throw out numbers, recommendations, macronutrients here, but that is something that should be a part of your diet when you are, period. It should be a part of your diet, period. But especially when we're healing our hormones, we need to make sure that we're getting enough. Yeah. I mean, I always lean on those, especially starchy vegetables. We're entering into the fall right now. It's squash season. I love butternut squash, acorn squash. Oh my gosh, I introduced someone to my favorite squash, delicata squash. If you haven't tried it, oh my, it is my favorite. It tastes like candy. So yeah, those starchy vegetables, which even incorporates carrots on that list, any sort of legumes, beans, chickpeas, lentils, quinoa, those are all, quinoa's actually a seed if you didn't know. It's not a grain. So those are great ways for us to incorporate a lot of those complex carbohydrates into all of our meals. Yeah. 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 But yeah, I think speaking your original question was like, what can we expect when we're coming off the pill? Like, what does this timeline kind of look like? And we just talked about a lot of different things to be doing. And I would say pick one or two that you can focus on that feels very doable, super realistic. You can commit to doing this every day to support your body, and even telling yourself like, I'm doing this to support my hormones. I'm creating this boundary in my life. I'm putting my phone away an hour before bed. I'm prioritizing my sleep because I'm prioritizing my hormone healing, etc. And the more you just tell yourself like, there's a reason, there's a reason we're doing this. I think that really helps people to make some behavior change. But overall, I expect about a 3-month window before there are any hormone changes. And there's a reason for that too. So the follicles, which we need like a whole anatomy lesson here, but we're born with all of the eggs we're ever going to have. We don't create eggs later on in life. But the follicle, which is like the house for the egg, takes 90 days to grow. So when we think about like any changes in a 3-month period, it's because that follicle is taking 90 days. So the next follicle to be grown and released of that egg, that cycle is when you can expect to see some changes. So I really like to give people like a 3-month timeline. Okay, you're trying to conceive. let's focus on these things for the next 3 months after coming off the pill before we start trying. Like getting your body prepared mentally, physically, etc. Really looking at that 3-month window. I don't know about you, but a lot of my symptoms showed up at like the 3 to 4 month range after I came off the pill. I was like, oh, okay, we have acne now. This is cool. Yeah. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. 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 I think it is really hard, especially if you are told or taught that it doesn't really impact things. So if your expectation is, okay, I'm going to come off the pill and I'm going to get my cycle and we're just going to move on, no one has given you this information that we're telling you today, that that's not realistic. That's the abnormal, that's the outlier experience. That's not the normal experience when we're coming off the pill. So yeah, being realistic about it, I think, is helpful. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's typically where people call me. That's when I get the frantic, help me. And that is, I think, a really good next step is finding a provider that you trust who is very familiar with this work. They know what to do. They've dealt with it many times before. They don't have to have this lived experience. I consider that to be a bonus. I'm not regretful that I had a really challenging time with coming off of the pill. It only allows me to have some compassion and understanding for my patients and clients. But yeah, troubleshoot, figuring out where this imbalance lies. Is it your thyroid? Is it your gut? Is it your hormones being off kilter? Do you actually have an undiagnosed issue going on, like PCOS, like endometriosis, which both can be managed completely? I do this work every day, and they are not a life sentence by any means. A lot of individuals experience, I mean, Monica, you can speak to this yourself, right? Like, you have learned to manage PMDD completely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Our health is not a linear thing. Even when you get to a resolution, there are still life things that happen. Maybe you get sick, maybe somebody passes and you have grief, maybe you have a breakup. Life happens. We can't prevent those things from happening, and they might shift your health or some of your symptoms temporarily. But having this awareness, knowing that it's not a forever thing, being empowered by that, not feeling defeated, like Monica said, not playing into that victim mode of like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get over this, because I can't say always, unfortunately, but there is most often a way, and a way to make things at least better, if not completely gone. Yeah. Yeah. I think it has a time and a place. It's done beautiful things, but it's not for everyone. It doesn't need to be the only option. Coming off of it does not mean you will get pregnant or that you need to get pregnant. And there are so many benefits to living life without the influence of outside hormones. Believe me. Yep. Yeah. Yes, and share, share, share. Share it with your friends. Bye.